You check your banking app, $8,400. 2 years of discipline sit in that number. Nights out you skipped. A version of you that finally got serious about money. You scroll down to see how much it earned this year. $40. You look at it again, waiting for a missing zero, something that makes the number make sense. There isn't one. You did not do anything wrong here. You followed the advice most people are given. Save first. Build good habits. Don't touch the money. So why does it feel like nothing happened? To understand that, we have to go back, not to the day you opened that account. Further back, to the moment you first learned what saving money was supposed to mean. Picture yourself at 8 years old, dropping coins into a piggy bank. A parent smiles and says, "Good job." That's how you build wealth. No one ever corrects that sentence. Not the school, which spends weeks teaching budgeting and almost no time teaching investing. Not the bank, which sends a free piggy bank to every new young customer. If saving really was the path to real wealth, someone with real financial knowledge would have proven it by now. No one has. And that is not an accident. You might think the problem is the interest rate. That if the bank paid 3% instead of 0.5%, the story would be different. It would not be. Even at 3%, $8,400 earns about $250 a year. Better, yes, still nowhere close to what actually builds wealth over time. The interest rate is not the real problem. It is only a symptom of it. So what is the real problem? Let's run the next 10 years forward, not as a guess, as two versions of the exact same decision you're about to make. In both versions, it's you. Same income. Same $300 a month you're able to set aside. Same discipline. The only thing that changes is where that money goes. In the first version, you keep doing what feels safe. Every month, $300 goes into your savings account. The number only ever moves one direction, slowly, but up. For the first 2 years, this feels like the smart choice. Nothing ever goes down. In the second version, that same $300 goes into a simple stock market fund instead. For the first 2 years, it does not feel smarter at all. The number rises, drops a little, rises again. There are months it looks like a mistake. 10 years pass. In the first version, you have close to $37,000. That is something to be proud of. Most people your age have not saved a single dollar. In the second version, you have close to $58,000. Same income both times. Same $300 a month both times. Same person. The only difference was where the money was kept. This gap is not rare, and it is not luck. It is what happens, by default, to almost anyone who chooses a savings account over an investment account for 10 years. You might assume the second version of you took a big risk to get there. You did not. You bought one fund that holds pieces of hundreds of companies at once. You never picked a single stock yourself. You did not check the account every day. In year 3, in that version, the balance actually fell below the amount put in. For about 4 months, it looked like a mistake. You kept adding money anyway. That is the entire difference between the two futures. Not skill. Not luck. Simply continuing. If the numbers are this clear, why doesn't everyone choose the second version? Because saving and investing are not really two financial strategies. They are two different feelings. And only one of them feels safe. When money sits in a savings account, the number only moves in one direction, slowly, but always up. Your mind reads that as control, as certainty. When money is invested, the number moves in both directions. And the same instincts that have kept people safe for thousands of years treat a small drop on a Tuesday as a warning sign, even when the 10-year trend is clearly upward. This is not a sign that you are bad with money. It is your mind reacting the way it was built to react, in a situation it was never designed for. There is one more thing worth understanding here. Who actually benefits when your money stays in a savings account? Banks take deposits like yours and lend that same money out for mortgages, car loans, business credit, often at rates several times higher than what they pay you. They pay you a small amount to hold your money and lend it out for far more. This is simply how the system works. It is not hidden. But it does mean that the institution telling you saving is the responsible choice is also the institution that benefits the most when you never move that money anywhere else. This does not make saving a bad thing. It only means saving was never meant to be the final step. It was meant to be the first one. Now let's go back to the version of you that chose to invest, because that path was not as smooth as the final number makes it look. 2 years before any of this, your car had broken down the same month rent went up. There was nowhere else to pull money from, so you sold your small investments at a loss, in a panic, and avoided investing again for almost a year. That was not really a market problem. It was a problem of timing and order. You had started investing before you had anything set aside for ordinary emergencies. So the second time, before touching an investment account again, you built something simple on purpose. 3 to 6 months of living expenses, kept in cash, untouched. Its only job was to make sure that the next time the car broke down, the investments would never have to be involved. Once that money existed, something changed in how you thought about the rest. Your money was no longer one single pile. Part of it protected daily life. A separate part was allowed to rise and fall over the long run. That separation is what made it possible to stop checking the account every day. A drop in the market was no longer a threat to paying rent. The second thing that made this possible, you did not need a large amount of money to begin. There's a common assumption that investing requires thousands of dollars sitting ready, some kind of entry point only for people who already have money. That is not true. Most platforms today let you start with the price of a dinner out, $50, sometimes less. What mattered was not the size of the first contribution. It was whether a second one followed. And a third. The habit grows before the money does. The third thing surprised even the version of you that got it right. The simplest approach outperformed the complicated one. Somewhere, someone spends hours picking individual stocks, following tips online, timing exactly when to buy and sell. Some months that beats the market. Most months, quietly, it does not. Those months just don't get talked about. The version of you that invested never picked a single company. One fund, holding hundreds of businesses at once, letting time do the work that picking individual stocks rarely does reliably. Even Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors alive, has said publicly that most people would do better with this simple approach than trying to outperform professional traders. The simple option is not a compromise. For most people, it is the actual strategy. Here is the part almost no one explains, and it's the part that matters most. What happens when the market falls after you've already started? 6 months into investing regularly, in that version of your future, the market fell 15%. The first instinct was to panic and pull the money out to protect what was left. But there was something easy to miss. The $300 a month never stopped. When prices are lower, that same $300 buys more shares than before. It wasn't just watching the money shrink. It was, without realizing it, buying more of the market while it was cheaper. When prices recovered later, those shares bought during the drop had grown the most. The people who panic and sell during a downturn lock in their loss. The people who keep contributing through it are often the ones a downturn ends up rewarding. Let's put an actual number on where this leads, because the story means little without one. $300 a month for 25 years. At a historical average return of around 9% a year, that grows to roughly $290,000. Of that amount, only $90,000 was personally contributed. The remaining $200,000, more than double what went in, came from growth that required no extra effort other than not interrupting it. This is not a rare outcome. It is what an ordinary income, an ordinary monthly amount, and enough time reliably produce. So if we return to that number on your screen right now, $8,400, earning $40 a year, the problem was never that you managed your money poorly. The real issue is that saving was designed to protect you during emergencies, and somewhere along the way, many of us began treating it as a plan for the future instead. It is an excellent shield. It is a poor way to build wealth on its own. The money that changes your financial future is not the money you protect. It is the money you allow to grow slowly, and sometimes uncomfortably, for longer than feels natural. 10 years from now, there will be 2 versions of you. One of them kept doing exactly what felt safe, and will look back at a number that barely kept up with inflation. The other started while it still felt uncomfortable, kept money set aside for real emergencies, contributed something small but consistent, and let 10 years of quiet, unremarkable growth do what it reliably does for anyone who does not interrupt it. The only real difference between these 2 people is the day they stopped waiting for it to feel comfortable, and started anyway. So here's the only question worth answering below. Right now, which version of that future are you actually building? The one protecting money that isn't growing, or the one letting something quiet and unremarkable build over time? I would like to know where you actually are, not where you plan to be.